Our first session this morning, we're bringing up Gary Schwartz from Impact Mobile. Please give him a hand as he gets us started for the morning.
Thanks a lot.
Put your water down there for me.
Okay, thanks. Okay, always hard to follow Trip. Anyway, so I know I've spoken to a few of you guys before historically, so I thought, gee, I'll start at scratch, no repeat slides, right? So I thought I'd talk to you about the theory of creepy, or as I like to put it, how to practice safe social, which is really relevant to all of us in the digital space, in the mobile space, as we move into that. And payment becomes more of an exercise of getting to know your customer, right? And so how do we navigate that? How do we navigate these sort of strange sort of new waters? So, historically, social has been very difficult to navigate. And I don't know if you remember the Susan Boyle launch when she used the hashtag, for her Susan album party, but everybody read it as Sue's anal bum party. Okay, and it's a very challenging world, right? And more recently, I don't know if you saw the U.S. Airlines debacle. Did you remember this? So there was as you know, social listening, right? So you're supposed to listen to your customers. So this was a note that was sent to one of the customers who tweeted U.S. Airways with a complaint. And now, I would love to give you the link here, but I would ask you to go onto the internet and find that link, because what it involves is a picture of the lady who was the CSAT woman with one of these objects doing some interesting things. It was a huge issue last week, okay? And so what does this mean to a brand that is using, that has somebody there who's socially listening, who's supposed to anticipate problems and solve them, and suddenly that becomes a problem of itself, right? And becomes viral by definition, and suddenly your whole company is being reactive to a situation where you were trying to be, responsive. I just came back from Paris and last week, and I was in the Louvre doing my thing, and I went as I should, as any loyal Louvre-going guy, and I went to the Mona Lisa. And what was amazing at the Mona Lisa is this: nobody's looking at the Mona Lisa, right? You're either looking through your device at the Mona Lisa, or you're turning your back to the Mona Lisa to make sure that you do a selfie with the Mona Lisa, that you can share that with everybody else in your community. Nobody's really there. And this is the big problem with social, is that your customer isn't interacting with you directly anymore. And so you have to use social in a very strategic way. And you've probably seen the slide, from the Fockers that I use occasionally. But this is really the point of this discussion, is that we think of social and we think of all the things that we do with digital as a science project. And that's why we're out of the circle of trust, right? We think about it as big data. We think about it as all the scientific stuff that we do as business people. But the reality is, Ben wants to get the hug, right? To get in the circle of trust, we have to understand how to interact with these digital people in a very human way, and not a scientific way. And so, Jules heads up the Future of Privacy Forum in Washington. And I was speaking to him. He was moving from a meeting with Google to a meeting on Capitol Hill about 3 weeks ago, and I was chatting with him, and he talks about evolving social norms. And that's really what we're facing, is that this is a very human thing, right? We're used to giving bear hugs to people in the real world, and suddenly we have to do it in a digital way. And we have to work out what that means, and how we can navigate that and make that something we're comfortable with. This is something with British Airways. I don't know if you remember, but they went out and they tried to do a high-touch sort of concierge thing with their first-class passengers. And what they did is they went on to Google and they found some facts about their first-class passengers so that they could color the profile and be a little bit more personal so that they would know what they looked like and they could anticipate certain things. Well, that turned into creepy, and this whole word creepy is a very subjective thing, right? And what is that border socially between what is appropriate and not appropriate in the social world? Is it appropriate, to stand next to your colleague on the phone? When you come into a restroom, should I be taking my Google glasses off, right? And all those nuances that we never really had to deal with before, suddenly we have to build new rules around, right? Is it appropriate for me to send you an email after this meeting, after this gathering? Absolutely. But as I've mentioned before, if I texted each one of you, you would think that was just a little creepy, right? Because you've delineated those channels, one being very social and one being a little bit more corporate and formal, right? And so another issue is with social, it's all about forensics. Have you ever noticed that? We can never deal with social going forward. We always deal with social as something that we have to cherry pick from the past. All the social tools out there are about the past. It's all about forensics. So you look back with Rebel Mouse and Storify and you cherry pick from the past really cool things like you'll do from this event. You'll take only the good clips from the video, you'll take some really good tweets, and you'll assemble them and say, that was what we did, right? But the problem is that, if you want to amplify your voice, if you want to create something where your brand actually has a position in social, you have to think about how you're going to do that from now moving forward, not just cherry picking the past, and that's a big challenge. And so we find we've just very responsive. Here's a commercial which you may be familiar with, and it's Honey Maid came up with this, and it's basically, hey, this is wholesome. And so they have, gay families, and they have mixed marriages, and they have guys with tattoos, and all the things that, are new in our society and are now wholesome and part of the way that we grow up as families, right? And they got a lot of flack for this in social. Right? So people are sending in things that are basically saying, hey, I loved you, Honey Maid, no more, right? So what they did is they took all those negative comments, they rolled them up, they got an artist to create in a big warehouse somewhere, this sign from the 60s, right? Using all those negative comments, turned it into something positive. Then they took all the positive feedback they got from this campaign and they filled in the blank space. So they out of one campaign, they got 2 social campaigns, which is amazingly fun and very, 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 creative. But again, it's very, it's again very forensic. And I think as brands and as payment companies going forward, we have to work out a way of not only cherry picking from the past or working out creative ways of dealing with, things that happened in the past, but how do we actually work forward in, how do we say we are going to create content moving forward into our social browser, into our tweet and our Facebook environment. Hijacking is another issue. We all know hashtags, right? And we all use them. So hashtags are the most crazy marketing channel I have ever heard about, because you can grab a hashtag, Shark Week, and think you own it, but then when you go into that hashtag search, anybody can hijack it, which is a crazy thing. So here's Shark Week just at a moment of time, but if you scroll the Shark Week image, you're getting images of sharks that you didn't anticipate in your brand, right? Same with the Weather Channel. It's amazing out there. That is not amazing. So hashtags are really strange because, you're dumping them right by your brand. but you have no control over who takes that hashtag and uses it, both for, potentially just by mistake, they saying it's amazing out there, and you're throwing in an image which probably was not meant in any way, I doubt the person who took a photo of their feet was trying to defame the brand of the Weather Channel. But there are people who will try and hijack you. So you have no control over that. And so hashtags are really, from a marketing perspective, a sort of a dubious channel. The other thing to take into account with social is that social now is ubiquitous and everywhere, right? And we know that with the Internet of Everything, and we talked about this a lot, everything is becoming connected, right? And so you're going from 10 billion connections to 50 billion connections, and we talked about this before, plants and diapers, and of course your thermostat is connected, and you can unlock your door because your door and your lock is connected, and your kids are connected to you. You have the ability to put tags on your baby to see if the baby's crying or not, or on the back or on their front. All of these things allow you to connect the world. And because you are connected to the world and connected to all the different things, including your stores, including your cards, it becomes a lot more you have to up your social game, right? And so one thing I wanted to mention is the store is now becoming an app. And this is my good old sort of refit, as I was saying to Fiona, my retail aphrodisiac. This is a very exciting device. Because this now you can take and you can shove it into your stores, and your stores become hotspots, which allow you to visualize and track, MAC addresses coming in, which are your customers, and those MAC addresses then can opt in and associate that MAC address with their profile and maybe their phone number or their email, and suddenly you now have a relationship with that MAC address. So when they come into proximity with your stores or your partner stores within 100 feet, you can trigger a deal to them. You can drive them into the store. This is sidewalk marketing, right? Again, it's a way of now giving that Ben Stiller bear hug to your customer who's in proximity, and knowing how to do that and understanding how to give that bear hug is part of the social exercise. And that's going to drive door swing. That's going to drive foot traffic, and that's going to enhance your sales in 2015. And so social is not about just knowing that you have to have your CSAT strategy or customer satisfaction strategy. You have to be listening on the web. But you also have to be able to use social to drive traffic into your stores, and also anticipate the speed bumps with hashtags and other things. So, and then you can map your stores. And I've always said, and I just want to reiterate this based on what Jaron says in a book that he wrote called You Are Not a Gadget, technology should be designed to serve humans and reflect their values, not the other way around. And so always think of social as not being the science project, but being the bear hug. And if you can get your head around what are the new social norms and how to understand how to engage your customer in a very human way and not a digital way, you will succeed this coming year. Thank you very much. The only thing I wanted, password, doesn't matter. We're doing yeah, you want to log in? Yeah. We're doing a virtual panel as a segue on that theme. And I just wanted to quickly show you before Steve jumps in. So this is a panel that we're going to be running in ThinkWire. The green one hasn't launched yet, Alternative Payment Pitfalls, but please come into ThinkWire, thinkwire.com, and see and participate in this virtual panel. Sort of another take on social. These are different panels. These are archived. These are live ones. And you'll sort of be able to follow past panels, but then participate in future panels. This one has a countdown clock because it isn't live yet. Steve's kindly been the sponsor of this particular panel. So please participate when the shindig's over so we can continue the social dialogue. Thanks so much. Steve? What? Oh yeah, Fiona's going to be the moderator of this panel. So if anybody, an expert in the crowd, wants to participate in the panel, please come see Fiona. Okay, thanks a lot. Steve. Do you want me-